My name is Diana. I'm 55 years old, and today I want to tell you a story about how a single sentence at my ex-husband's wedding changed everything. This is a story about betrayal, about pain, and about how sometimes revenge can turn into an act of mercy. If you've ever felt not beautiful enough, if you've ever been humiliated, if you've ever lost someone you loved, this story is for you. Hit that like button right now so that more people can hear what happened, so this story can reach those who've been through the same. And don't forget to share your own stories in the comments. I read every single one. Sometimes all we need is to know we're not alone. I was sitting at the long wedding table, white tablecloth, crystal glasses, flowers everywhere. Victoria, my ex-husband Robert's new wife, was at the center of it all, glowing in her cream-colored gown embroidered with pearls. She was tipsy, not drunk, but just enough. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes sparkled too brightly. She laughed too loudly, hugged Robert, kissed his cheek in front of everyone. I was finishing my champagne, ready to leave. My friend Martha had already put her napkin on the table and whispered, "Diana, let's go. That's enough." But then Victoria called out to me, loudly, across the entire table. "Diana, sweetheart." She waved, beaming at me. The chatter died down. Dozens of eyes turned my way. I felt the weight of every single gaze. I forced a small, uncertain smile. "Yes? Come here. I want to make a toast." She stood up, wobbling slightly. Robert tried to steady her, but she brushed him off. I stayed in my seat. No, stay. I'll say it from here." Victoria lifted her glass high above her head. "I want to thank Diana for coming today. It's just so generous of her." Awkward laughter rippled through the guests. Someone coughed. The tension in the room thickened by the second. "You know, when I first met Diana, I admired her so much. A successful architect. Such a strong woman." She shook her head, took a long sip of champagne. "But then Robert told me something about her childhood, about how she used to be mocked for the way she looked." The pause after those words was excruciating. I felt the blood drain from my face. Robert shot up from his chair. "Vika, enough. Sit down." But she ignored him. Her smile sharpened, turned meaner as she locked eyes with me. And then I understood why he left her. Silence. The music in the distance still played, but at our table there was nothing. Not a breath. "Victoria!" Robert grabbed her arm, but she pulled free. She stepped closer, her eyes glittering with cruelty. "But Robert lied about one thing. You're even uglier than he ever described." A collective gasp. A fork clattered onto a plate. Some of her friends burst into giggles. One covered her mouth with her hand, but I saw her shoulders shaking. Time froze. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Her words echoed in my head over and over. "Even uglier than he described." Martha leapt up. "That's it, we're leaving, right now." Robert turned to me, his face white as chalk. "Diana, I never said that, I swear to you." But I couldn't hear him. All I heard was laughter, whispers. I saw the faces around me, some shocked, some avoiding my eyes, some looking at me with pity. And then I felt my hand reaching into my purse under the table. A folder, a brown leather folder I had carried with me for a year, never intending to use. I pulled it out and placed it on the table in front of me. Slowly, every eye followed my hands. Victoria saw it, and her smile vanished instantly. "What is that?" For the first time that evening, her voice trembled. I rose from my seat, met her gaze, didn't look away. "You know, Victoria, I thought you were a sweet girl. When we first met a few months ago, you were so polite. You admired my work, said you'd seen my projects in magazines, and then you invited me to your wedding." I opened the folder, but didn't show its contents to anyone. "And I actually thought then, how kind she is, how mature. Not every new wife would invite the ex to her wedding. Victoria swallowed hard. I saw her throat tighten. But now I see the whole picture. You didn't invite me out of kindness. You invited me so you could humiliate me in front of all these people, to show everyone how beautiful you are and how ugly I am. Isn't that right? No one said a word. And you know what's the funniest part of all this? I patted the folder with my hand. I came here with this. I've known something very interesting about you. For a whole year, I've kept it to myself. I decided not to use it. I decided to bury it. I decided to be generous. Victoria's face drained of color right before my eyes. What are you even talking about? But you called me ugly in front of everyone. I smiled, but it was a cold, sharp smile. Robert took a step toward me. Diana, what's in that folder? What are you planning to do? I looked at him, then back at Victoria, and I could see it, fear slowly flooding her eyes. And this is where it gets interesting. But before I tell you what was in that folder and what happened next, I need to take you back, 3 years back. Because to understand why I ended up at that wedding with that folder in my hands, you need to know the whole story from the very beginning. The story of how I lost the man I loved for 25 years, how my life fell apart, and how I uncovered the truth about so many things. 3 years ago, my life looked perfect. I was a successful architect. My projects were featured in magazines. I had a beautiful house, the one I designed myself. And I had Robert, my husband, 25 years together. I thought it was forever. But then everything started to shift, slowly, almost imperceptibly. I remember that September evening. We were in the living room. I was sketching, Robert on his laptop. The silence felt warm, or at least I thought it did. Then his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and I caught something strange flicker in his eyes. He snatched the phone up and left the room. Work. 1 second. I watched him go. Inside me, a little sting. Maybe I imagined it. But the sting stayed, like a splinter under the skin. And then more things changed. Robert started coming home late. His phone never left his pocket, not even in the shower. He grew cold, distant. When I touched his hand, he flinched like it startled him. And then I found the receipt. No, I didn't just find it, I was looking. Because the splinter had turned into a nail, pressing deeper and deeper. A receipt from a jewelry store. $15,000. A necklace. I sat on the edge of the bed, fingers trembling as I held that slip of paper. $15,000. Robert had never spent more than $5,000 on jewelry for me. He'd always said it was wasteful. But now, $15,000. That night, I set the table, lit candles, put on his favorite burgundy dress. Maybe it's for me. Maybe it's a surprise. I wanted to believe so badly. Robert came home at 10. No flowers, no smile. He didn't even notice the candles. He kissed me on the cheek, cold, formal, and sat down to eat in silence. I waited for him to take out a box, to say something, but he just ate, quietly. Robert, I found the receipt from the jewelry store. My voice shook. He looked up. For a second, just one, I saw panic, but it vanished instantly. Oh, it's for a client, a business gift. He kept chewing, calm. $15,000 for a client? Very important client. $2 million contract. You have to impress them. He shrugged, as if it were nothing. I stared at him, searching for the truth in his eyes, but saw only emptiness. I see. I lowered my gaze to my plate. Suddenly, I couldn't eat another bite. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay beside him, staring at the ceiling. Robert slept peacefully, breathing steady. And inside me, everything was tearing apart. 3 days later, I saw her. I was driving past his office. Well, almost passed. I'd gone there on purpose. I wanted to check, and there he was, walking out of the building, and beside him, her, blonde, young, beautiful. She laughed, throwing her head back. Robert smiled at her the way he hadn't smiled at me in years. He opened the door to his car for her, and they drove off. I sat in my car across the street, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. This is just a colleague, just a business lunch. I repeated it again and again. But I didn't believe it. That evening, I asked him directly, "Robert, is there someone else?" We were sitting in the kitchen. He was drinking coffee, eyes on his phone. He looked up. "What? Do you have another woman?" The words burst out before I could stop them. Robert set his cup down, looked at me for a long time. "Diana, what are you even talking about?" "I saw you today, outside the office, with the blonde." He sighed, heavy, irritated. That's Victoria, the new interior designer. We're working on the Riverdale project." His voice was calm, but I heard the steel in it. "We went to see the property. It's business, and I don't understand why you're interrogating me." Something clenched in my chest. He'd never spoken to me like that. "Robert, you've changed. You come home late. You don't talk to me. You're always on your phone, and when I'm near, you hide it." "Diana, I just have a lot of work." He cut me off, gently but sharply. "The Riverdale project is huge. I'm under pressure. That's all. And I don't need your jealousy scenes on top of it." He stood and placed his hands on my shoulders, squeezed. Hard. "There's no other woman. There's only you. 25 years, remember?" He kissed me on the forehead, cold, mechanical. I wanted to believe him, wanted it desperately. "All right, I'm sorry. Trust me." He went back to his coffee, and I just sat there, feeling the knife sink deeper beneath my ribs. The next day, I called Martha. I'm losing my mind. We were sitting in a cafe. Martha held my hand across the table. "Diana, maybe it really is just work." "Martha, I've lived with this man for 25 years. I know when he's lying." I squeezed her hand tighter. "He's lying. I can feel it. But I don't have proof. Nothing." Martha was quiet for a moment, then she said softly, "You know, I have a friend, a private investigator." I looked at her, stunned. I never thought I'd get to this point. Spying on my own husband, it feels humiliating. "But, do you want the truth?" She held my gaze. I took a deep breath. Yes, I want the truth. Even if it breaks my heart, because not knowing was worse. Detective Max met with me 2 days later. We sat in his office, a small room with a single window. A desk, 2 chairs, the faint smell of coffee and cigarettes. Max was about 50, gray hair, tired eyes. He looked at me without judgment. "You're not the first to come in with these suspicions, and you won't be the last." His voice was calm. "What do you need to know?" My hands were clenched into fists on my lap. "I want the truth. I want to know if my husband has someone else." "All right, I'll start the surveillance. Give me a week and I'll have something." He jotted down Robert's office address, the make of his car. "And one more thing." I pulled a slip of paper from my purse. My hand shook as I wrote the name. Victoria, interior designer. She works with my husband. I want to know everything about her. Max took the paper and nodded. "Trust your instincts, Diana. They're rarely wrong." 3 days later, Robert said over breakfast, "By the way, Victoria wants to meet you. She's heard so much about your work. Maybe the 3 of us could grab coffee." He said it casually, like it was nothing. I nearly choked on my toast. "She wants to meet me?" "Yes, she admires your projects. She saw the article about your gallery and architecture today." Robert smiled. "I thought you two would get along. You have so much in common." I stared at him, confused. If he was having an affair with this woman, why would he want us to meet? Maybe I really am paranoid. Maybe there's nothing. All right, let's meet. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. We met at a cafe downtown. Bright, airy, with big windows and the smell of fresh coffee and pastries. I arrived first, sat by the window. My hands trembled as I held the menu, and then she walked in. Victoria. God, she was stunning. Wavy blonde hair, a perfect figure in a fitted beige dress, flawless makeup, a dazzling white smile. 35, maybe younger. She spotted us, waved, and walked over with a graceful stride. "Diana!" She extended her hand. The shake was warm, firm. "I'm so glad to finally meet you. Robert has told me so much about you." She sat across from me. Her perfume was light, floral, expensive. "And I saw your gallery in architecture today. The play of light, the use of space. You're a genius." Her voice bubbled with enthusiasm, her eyes sparkling with sincerity. I looked at her and felt old, plain, dull. "Thank you. That's very kind of you." Robert sat beside Victoria, smiling, relaxed, at ease. "Vika's just starting her career in design, but she's got enormous potential. We're working together on the Riverdale project, and her ideas are just—" He went on animatedly. Victoria chimed in, adding details. They interrupted each other, laughed, tossed around plans, and I just sat and watched. At one point, Victoria brushed Robert's hand by accident as she reached for a napkin. "Oh, sorry." She pulled her hand back quickly, flashing me an apologetic smile. Robert stiffened for a second. His shoulders tightened. Or did I imagine it? "You know, Diana, your marriage is incredible." Victoria looked at me, suddenly serious. 25 years together. That's so rare these days. I dream of having that kind of love, that kind of relationship. There was something in her eyes. Sadness? Envy? Or was I just imagining that too? "Thank you. We've been lucky to have each other." I reached for Robert's hand. He squeezed mine. But his hand was cold. On the way home, Robert asked, "So, did you like her?" I stared out the window at the streets rushing by. "Yes, she's nice, very energetic." "See, I told you you'd like her. I knew you'd get along." He sounded pleased, and I sat there thinking, if he's having an affair, he wouldn't have introduced us. Which means maybe I really am losing my mind. But deep down, something whispered, it's not that simple. A week later, Max called. "Diana, we need to meet. I have information." His voice was serious. We met in the same office. Max slid a folder across the desk toward me. My hands trembled as I opened it. The first photo, Robert and Victoria leaving a restaurant, laughing. The second, getting into his car. The third, entering a hotel, daylight. Robert holding the door for her. The fourth, leaving 3 hours later. Victoria adjusting her hair. I stared at the photos, couldn't breathe. The room blurred around me. They were inside for 3 hours and 20 minutes. Max's voice was quiet. "But Diana, it doesn't necessarily mean—" They could have been working. They might have had documents, plans. I looked up at him. "Do you believe that?" He was silent. "No." I placed the photos back in the folder. My hands felt numb. "There's more." Max pulled out a second, thicker folder. "You asked me to look into Victoria. I found some interesting things." He opened it. Her real name is Vika Gramova, born in a small town. Poor family. Father drank. Mother worked 2 jobs. He showed me an old photo from social media 10 years ago. I stared at it, stunned. It was a completely different girl, overweight, round face, crooked teeth, acne on her cheeks, cheap clothes, dull hair. "That's her?" "Yes, 10 years ago." Max spread out more documents. In the last decade, she's had multiple surgeries: rhinoplasty, chin correction, cheekbones, breast augmentation, teeth, liposuction. I found clinic records. He pointed to the papers. Total cost, about $150,000. I felt dizzy. Where did she get that kind of money? She's just starting out as a designer. Max sighed. She had sponsors. 3 men over the last 10 years, all wealthy, all much older. The first paid for her education and initial surgeries. The second bought her an apartment. The third... He stopped. The third what? He died 2 years ago, left her an inheritance. Not huge, but enough to get her career started. I leaned back, overwhelmed. Victoria. Sweet, admiring Victoria. She was... a hunter? A gold digger? Do you think she's after Robert? His money? Max shrugged. I don't know her motives. I just give you the facts. I picked up the photo of Vika before the surgeries. A plump girl with sad eyes and crooked teeth. And suddenly, I saw myself at 15, being mocked at school, crying in front of the mirror, wishing desperately to be beautiful. She just wanted to change herself, the way I once did. I closed the folder. Thank you, Max. This is very valuable. He studied me. What will you do with it? I gathered both folders, one with Robert and Victoria, one with her past. I don't know. I need to think. At home, I locked the folders away in the safe, the farthest corner. I looked at them and thought, Robert is cheating on me. Almost certainly. The photos spoke for themselves. And Victoria. Victoria had been an ugly girl once. A girl who was probably mocked, who changed herself, who clawed her way out of poverty the only way she knew how. I won't use this against her. I shut the safe. I won't punish a woman for wanting to be beautiful. That would be cruel. But the photos of Robert, that was different. That had to be dealt with. 2 weeks passed after my meeting with the detective. 2 weeks where I lived like in a fog. I went to work, met clients, smiled. And inside, I was dying. Robert kept coming home late, kept lying. Every evening, I looked at him and thought, just tell me the truth. Just say it. But he stayed silent. And I stayed silent too. Because I was afraid. Afraid to hear the words that would destroy 25 years of my life. But one night, I couldn't take it anymore. Robert came home at 11. He smelled of perfume. Not mine. Hers. That sweet floral scent. I recognized it instantly. Victoria's perfume. I was waiting for him in the living room. I hadn't turned the lights on. Just sitting in the dark. Diana? He stepped inside and saw me. Why are you sitting in the dark? Is everything okay? He switched on the light. I looked at him, long and hard, studying every line of the face I had loved for 25 years. Robert, we need to talk. My voice was calm, too calm. He froze. Something shifted in his expression. About what? Sit down. He lowered himself slowly into the chair across from me. I could see his shoulders tense. I know. 2 words. That was all. Robert's face went pale. What do you mean? I know about Victoria, about the hotel, about everything. My voice was steady, shockingly steady. He opened his mouth, closed it, dropped his head. We sat in silence. Heavy. Endless. How long? I finally asked. What? How long have you been lying to me? Robert lifted his eyes. I saw guilt in them, pain, but not denial. 1.5 years. The words hit like stones. 1.5 years. 18 months of lies. 18 months of waking up beside him, kissing him, saying I love you, while he... 1.5 years. I repeated, my voice breaking. You've been looking me in the eye for 1.5 years and lying. Diana, He stood, tried to move toward me. Don't. I raised my hand. He stopped. Just tell me. Do you love her? The pause after that question was endless. Yes, one word, but it ripped my heart to pieces. I didn't mean to. I swear I never planned it. It just happened. Robert's words tumbled out fast, desperate. We started working together. She was so alive, energetic. With her, I felt young again. I sat listening, tears streaming silently down my face. And me? What about me? Did I just get too old for you? Too boring? No, Diana, no, that's not. Then what? What did I do wrong? My voice rose. All the calm drained out of me. I loved you for 25 years. I was faithful to you. I built our home. I supported your business. My voice broke completely. I buried my face in my hands. Robert stood in silence. What could he possibly say? Do you want to be with her? I asked through my tears. A long pause. Then, yes, another blow. Another crack in my heart. Then go. I wiped my face, looked straight at him. Just go, now. Diana, let's talk. There's nothing left to talk about. You made your choice. So go to her. Robert stood staring at me. His eyes glistened with tears too. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Go. My voice was cold now. Empty. He turned and walked out of the room. I heard him upstairs, closet doors opening, drawers slamming, packing his things. 20 minutes later, he came downstairs with a bag. He stopped in the doorway of the living room. I'll call you. We need to discuss the house, finances. I didn't answer. I just stared out the window. He lingered for another minute, then left. The door clicked shut. And I was alone. Alone in the house I had built with my own hands. Alone in the life I once believed was perfect. I sat in that chair until morning. I didn't move. I didn't cry anymore. I just sat there and felt everything crumble. The next few months were a blur, like I was living underwater. Lawyers, papers, dividing assets. Robert was fair, I'll give him that. He split everything evenly. Didn't try to cheat me. Didn't try to take more. You've earned this, Diana. You gave as much to our marriage as I did. He said that during one of the meetings. I looked at him and I didn't recognize him anymore. This man was a stranger. Where was my Robert? The one who laughed with me, who held my hand, who promised to stay forever. And what exactly did I earn, Robert? Betrayal? A year and a half of lies? He dropped his eyes. I'm sorry. He said that a lot. But the word was empty, meaningless. Martha was there for me, every day. She brought food, made me eat. You'll survive this, Diana. I know it feels like the end of the world now, but you're strong. You'll get through it. She held my hand, but I didn't feel strong. I felt broken. At night, I lay in our bed, the bed we'd shared, and couldn't breathe. The pain was physical, real, like someone was crushing my heart in their fist. 25 years, half my life. Was it all a lie? Number. Not all of it. Once upon a time, it was real. He did love me once. He just stopped. The last time I saw Robert was at the lawyer's office. We signed the final divorce papers. He walked me to my car. Diana, I want you to know you didn't deserve this. He stood there, hands in his pockets. You were a good wife, the best. This was my fault, all mine. I looked at him, the man I had loved for so long. You're right, I didn't deserve it. I opened my car door. But you know what, Robert? Thank you. His eyebrows lifted in surprise. For what? For showing me the truth. Better now than 25 years later. I got into the car. Be happy with Victoria, truly. I closed the door and drove away, without looking back. The months after that, I buried myself in work, completely, Project after project. 14-hour days. No time to think, no time to feel, and it worked. My projects appeared in magazines more often. Clients recommended me to their friends. I received offers from Europe. Work saved me, gave me purpose, gave me meaning. I began to feel like myself again. Not Robert's wife, not the abandoned woman, but Diana, the architect, the artist, the person. A year passed after the divorce. I was in my office working on a new design when the email arrived. From Victoria. I stared at the sender's name, unsure if I should open it. Finally, I did. Dear Diana, I hope this message doesn't feel inappropriate. I've thought long and hard about whether to write it. Robert and I are getting married next month. A small ceremony, just close friends and family, and I would like to invite you. I know it sounds strange, but you were an important part of Robert's life, and you were so kind to me when we first met. I would be glad if you came. Sincerely, Victoria. I read it 3 times. She's inviting me to their wedding? Seriously? My first instinct was to delete it, forget it, but then I thought. I stood up and walked to the safe, opened it, pulled out the 2 folders, one with photos of Robert and Victoria at the hotel, the other with Victoria's past. I held them in my hands and thought. A year ago, I had decided not to use the information about her because it would have been cruel, because when I looked at her, I saw myself. But now she was inviting me to her wedding with my ex-husband. Why? Maybe she really is kind. Maybe she wants to close this chapter gracefully, or maybe she just wants to show me that she won. I looked at the picture of Victoria before the surgeries, that awkward girl with the sad eyes, and I made my decision. All right, Victoria, I'll come. I slipped the folders into my bag. I'll come, and we'll see what you really have in mind. And now, here I am, at this wedding, with those folders in my bag. I wasn't planning to use them. Honestly, I just brought them just in case. But then she called me ugly in front of everyone, and everything changed. And so, I'm back to the moment where it all began. I'm standing at the wedding table, folder in my hands, every guest watching me. Victoria pale, Robert in shock. I open the folder slowly, relishing the moment. Do you know what's in here? I look around at the guests. The truth about who Victoria really is. Victoria takes a step forward. Diana, don't, please. Her voice trembles with tears. But I can't stop now. Something inside me broke the moment she called me ugly. I pull out the first photo, old, 10 years ago. Do you recognize this girl? I hold the photo up for everyone to see. Guests lean in, staring. A heavy-set girl with a round face, crooked teeth, acne, cheap clothes, dull hair. Someone gasps. That's Victoria. Her friend in pink can't believe her eyes. Yes, that's Victoria, 10 years ago. I lay the photo on the table. Victoria covers her face with her hands. Where did you get that? Her voice shakes. I hired a private investigator a year ago. When I discovered your affair with Robert, I pull out more documents. Vika Gromova, born in a small town, poor family, an alcoholic father. I read slowly, deliberately. In the last 10 years, she's had multiple surgeries: nose, cheekbones, chin, breasts, teeth, liposuction, total cost, about $150,000. Guests murmur to each other. Some pull out their phones, comparing the old photo to the woman standing before them now. Diana, stop! Robert jumps up, his chair clattering behind him. This is cruel. Why are you doing this? I turn to him. Cruel? You're talking to me about cruelty? My voice rises. She called me ugly, Robert, in front of all these people, said I was even uglier than you had described me. I lock eyes with him. Tell me, was that true? Did you really say that about me? Robert goes even paler. No, I never. He did. Victoria screams through her tears. He said it. He told me you were ugly, that he never understood why he married you. That dash. Victoria, shut up. I never said that. Robert shouts at her, but she won't stop. The hysteria spills out. You did. You kept comparing us. You said I was prettier, younger, that with her you were bored. The silence after her words is heavy, like lead. Robert stands there, mouth open, speechless. I look at him, the man I loved for 25 years. So you did say it. My voice is quiet, but everyone hears it. You didn't just cheat, you humiliated me behind my back. Diana, Shut up, and I turn back to Victoria. But let's get back to you, to your story. I pull out more documents. Where did you get the money for all those surgeries, Victoria? For your education? For the apartment? She doesn't answer. Her shoulders shake with sobs. 3 wealthy men in 10 years, all much older than you. I read the names aloud. The first paid for your studies and initial surgeries. The second bought you an apartment. The third died 2 years ago and left you an inheritance. I look around at the guests. And now, number 4, Robert. That's not true, Victoria screams. I wasn't using them. Those were relationships, real relationships. Real? I laugh bitterly. You were with men who could afford to fund your transformation, from ugly duckling to swan. That's the truth. Victoria is sobbing loudly now. Her friends look helpless. Some avert their eyes. Robert stood frozen, like struck by lightning. Vika. Is this true? He stared at her, disbelief in his eyes. You never told me about other men, about the surgeries. Victoria turned to him, tears streaking her face. I didn't tell you because I was afraid. Afraid you'd look at me exactly like this, with disgust. She wiped at her cheeks, smearing her makeup. I wanted to start over. I didn't want to be that ugly girl anymore. I just wanted to be beautiful. Her voice broke completely. I looked at her and felt a strange mix of triumph and pity. Triumph because she had humiliated me and I had paid her back. Pity because I saw that girl from the old photo, the one who had been mocked, who cried in front of the mirror, just like I once did. Where did you get all of this? Robert turned to me, anger flashing in his eyes. You investigated her, dug into her past. Yes. I hired a detective a year ago. I wanted to know who this woman was, the one who destroyed my marriage. I gathered the documents back into the folder. And do you know what I did when I got this information? Pause. Nothing. I did nothing. I looked at Victoria. I hid it away. Decided never to use it. Because I understood you. I saw myself in you. That girl who was humiliated for how she looked, who only wanted to be beautiful. Victoria met my gaze through her tears. I chose to be better. I chose not to punish you for the surgeries, for the rich men. That was your choice, your life. I stepped closer to her. I even came here today in peace. I wanted to close this chapter, to let it go. My voice hardened. But then you called me ugly in front of everyone, and I realized you're not a victim, you're just cruel. Victoria shook her head. I didn't mean to. Liar, I cut her off sharply. You invited me on purpose. You got drunk on purpose. You humiliated me on purpose. Why? She stayed silent. Tell me, why did you do it? Because I hated you, Victoria screamed at last. Because he never stopped talking about you, about your talent, your kindness. I was younger, prettier, but you were still better in his eyes. She clutched Robert's hand desperately. I wanted him to finally forget you, to make you look pathetic, to dash. She stopped, realized she had said too much. Robert slowly pulled his hand away. You planned this?" His voice was ice. "You invited Diana just to humiliate her?" Victoria opened her mouth, closed it, tears streaming harder now. I just wanted... My God." Robert stepped back from her. "I thought you were kind. I thought you were better. Better than this." He looked at her now with disgust, and I stood there watching. Part of me felt satisfied. Victoria had gotten what she deserved. But another part looked at this broken woman, sobbing before everyone, and saw not a villain, but a shattered human being. Victoria stands there, sobbing, her makeup smeared across her face, hands trembling. The guests stay silent. Someone pulls out a phone. They're recording. This will be all over social media within the hour. Robert has stepped away from her, standing off to the side. His face pale. He looks at his new bride like she's a stranger. And me? I'm standing with the folder in my hands, and I feel nothing. I had waited for this moment, dreamed of it, of exposing the truth, of humiliating her the way she humiliated me. But now that it's here, there's no triumph, only exhaustion. Suddenly, Victoria turns and runs, away from the table toward the house. Her dress catches on chairs. She stumbles on the steps but doesn't stop. The guests whisper, their eyes following her. I look at Robert. He doesn't move, doesn't go after her. Go to her. My voice is quiet. He turns to me. What? Go to your wife, Robert. She needs you. He shakes his head. After what she did? After she humiliated you on purpose? Yes, after all that. I set the folder down on the table. Because she's broken, and someone needs to be there for her. Robert stares at me for a long moment, then slowly walks toward the house, and I know I have to finish this, end it completely. So I follow. I find them upstairs, in the bedroom. The door is ajar. Victoria sits on the edge of the bed, crying into her hands. Robert stands nearby, not knowing what to do. I step inside. Both of them look up. What are you doing here? Robert's voice is sharp. We need to talk, the three of us. I close the door behind me. Victoria's eyes are red and swollen. Isn't it enough? You've already ruined everything. Her voice is shattered but still laced with anger. It's not enough. I sit down in a chair opposite them. Because I want the truth, all of it. I fix my gaze on Victoria. Why did you invite me? Why did you plan that humiliation? She turns her face away, silent. Victoria, answer. Robert's voice is weary now. I want to know too. Why? A long pause. Then Victoria begins to speak, quietly, barely audible. Because I was afraid. Afraid of what? I lean forward. Victoria lifts her eyes, looks straight at Robert. Of you. I was afraid of losing you. Robert frowns. What are you talking about? You never stopped comparing me to her. Victoria points at me. Every day. Diana would never have done that. Diana is smarter. Diana is more talented. Diana is kinder. Her voice rises with every word. I was younger, prettier, but you still thought of her. She was everywhere, in every conversation, in every thought you had. The tears pour again. I hated her. Hated her because I could never measure up, because no matter what I did, you still remembered her. Robert stands in silence, his face tense. I didn't realize you felt that way. Of course you didn't understand. Victoria jumped up from the bed, eyes blazing through tears. Because you were blind with your memories of perfect Diana. She turned on me, hatred and pain mixed in her gaze. I wanted to show him you weren't perfect, that you're just an ordinary woman, that you could be pathetic, humiliated. She wiped her tears with shaking hands. I thought if he saw you like that, he'd finally forget, finally love only me. The room fell into silence. I looked at this woman, this beautiful, broken woman, and understood. You didn't love him? My words were slow, steady. You were afraid of losing him. And that's not the same thing. Victoria froze. I love him. No, I shook my head. You're afraid of being alone again, afraid of becoming that ugly girl no one loved. I stepped closer. Robert was your salvation, your ticket into a new life. He was successful, wealthy, gave you status, and you clung to him out of fear. Her lips trembled. That's not true. It is true. I held her gaze. And do you know the saddest part? I understand you because I was that ugly girl too. I was mocked. I cried in front of the mirror. Her eyes widened. The difference is, I learned to love myself. Not my face, myself, my talent, my strength. I paused. But you still hate that girl in the photo. You've been running from her, through surgeries, through men, through beauty. Victoria slowly sank back onto the bed. Her shoulders sagged. I didn't know you too. Was ugly? Yes. I fixed my teeth. Had a nose job. I nodded. But I never hid it, and I never humiliated others for how they looked. I turned to Robert. And you? He flinched. Did you really compare us? Tell her I was better? Robert lowered his eyes. Sometimes, when I was angry, when we fought. He rubbed his face. I didn't mean to hurt her, it's just, you were with me for 25 years. That's hard to forget. And did you say I was ugly? That you didn't know why you married me? The firmness in my voice made him pause. Silence stretched. Then finally, once. We had a terrible fight. She accused me of still loving you, and I said it in anger. He raised his eyes to mine. But it wasn't true. Diana, you were always beautiful to me. Always. We just grew out of the marriage. The passion faded. All that was left was habit. I looked at him, and for the first time in years, I felt a strange relief. He hadn't thought I was ugly. He had just stopped loving me. And that I could live with. All right, I nodded. Thank you for being honest. I turned toward the door. Diana, wait. Victoria's voice stopped me. I turned back. She stood now, wiping her face, trying to compose herself. I'm sorry. Her voice shook, but it was sincere. I'm sorry for what I said, for humiliating you. It was cruel. I studied her for a long time. I don't know if I can forgive you. Not now. The truth. But I understand why you did it. And that means something. I opened the door. You two need to talk. Alone. Decide if you have a future. I stepped out, closing the door softly behind me. In the hallway, I stopped, leaned against the wall, took a deep breath. It had been heavy, brutal, but it was necessary. I could hear their muffled voices behind the door. Robert saying something, Victoria crying. I went downstairs, back to the guests, to the end of the story. I walked down the stairs slowly. Each step echoed. Below, the guests were still seated, whispering. Some were already getting ready to leave. Someone was filming. Someone's wedding had turned into a spectacle. Martha ran up to me. Diana, God, what happened up there? Are you okay? She hugged me hard. I'm fine. I hugged her back. Everything's fine. I stepped away and went to the table, to the place where it had all begun. The folder was still there. The brown leather folder with Victoria's past. I picked it up and looked at it. Then I did something nobody expected. I tore it up, just like that, in half. Photographs, documents, every scrap of information. I ripped them into pieces. The guests froze and stared. "What are you doing?" Martha whispered. "What I should have done a year ago." I kept tearing the papers into tiny shreds. This is her past that shouldn't decide her future. I looked around at the guests. Yes, Victoria had surgeries. Yes, she had rich men. Yes, she came from a poor family. I spoke loudly, clearly. But you know what? None of that makes her a bad person. It makes her a person who fought, who wanted a better life. I swept the bits of paper from the table onto the floor. Her only crime today was cruelty, revenge. She humiliated me because she was afraid of losing love. I paused, and I answered in kind. I humiliated her back. I looked at my hands, at the little confetti of paper. But do you know what? Revenge doesn't bring relief. It only brings emptiness. I lifted my head. I came here angry, hurt. I wanted to prove I was better than her, that I'd won. I smiled bitterly, but nobody won. We only hurt each other. Martha stepped closer and put her hand on my shoulder. "Diana." Wait, I'm not finished. I pulled the second folder from my bag. The guests gasped. "Another folder?" But this one wasn't brown, it was black. "This one isn't Victoria's past." I opened it. "This is my truth. The thing I never told anyone, not even Robert." I pulled out documents, financial reports, bank statements. A year ago, Robert's company was on the verge of bankruptcy. I spread the papers for the guests to see. A major project failed. Investors left. Debts were mounting. Another month, and he would have lost everything. The guests leaned in, studying the paperwork. Then an anonymous investor stepped in, put in $3 million, saved the company. I glanced toward the upstairs door. Robert and Victoria were still there. That investor was me. Silence, complete, absolute. "What?" Martha looked at me with disbelief. You saved his business? After he left you?" "Yes," I nodded. "I found out about the trouble by chance. A mutual acquaintance in the construction business mentioned it. I started digging and realized how bad it was. I set the documents on the table. And I discovered something else. Victoria was planning to leave him. I took out a printout of messages. My detective intercepted her messages to a friend. She wrote, "If Robert goes bankrupt, I'm out. I won't stay with a loser." The guests murmured louder. "She was with him for money, for status." I put the printout down. My voice trembled a little. Not because I wanted him back. Number. I was already moving on, building my own life. I looked around at the guests. But you can't just erase 25 years. I couldn't stand by and watch the man I loved for half my life lose everything, even if he hurt me. Tears welled in my eyes. So I invested the money anonymously through a front company. I saved his business. Martha wrapped her arms around me. "Diana, oh my God." "And you know the funniest part?" I laughed through tears. After that, Victoria stayed, because the money was still there, the status was safe, and she decided he was still worthy of her. I wiped my face. But I never told him, or her, because I needed to know. Did she love him, or just his success? A pause. Today, I got my answer. She was terrified of losing her status. That's why she invited me. That's why she humiliated me, to prove to Robert she was the better choice. I closed the black folder. But the truth is, she doesn't love him. She loves what he gives her. Security, a beautiful life, the promise that she'll never again be that ugly girl. I looked up toward the staircase, and Robert still loves me, or at least the memory of me. That's why he kept comparing her to me. A deep breath. They're both unhappy, and I don't want to be part of that anymore. I placed the black folder on the table beside the shredded brown one. There's the truth. About her, about me, about all of us. I scanned the faces around me. None of us are perfect. We all have pasts. We all have fears. And sometimes those fears make us do terrible things. I picked up my purse. Victoria humiliated me out of fear. I humiliated her out of pain. Robert hurt us both out of weakness. I turned toward the exit. But I'm done. I don't want this pain anymore, this revenge, this emptiness. At the door, I stopped, looked back. If Robert and Victoria come down, tell them. I thought for a moment. Tell them I forgive them, both of them, and I hope they find real love, with each other, or somewhere else. I found Martha's eyes. Shall we? She nodded, took my arm. We walked toward the door. The guests parted. Someone began to clap, slowly. One person, then another, and another. I turned. Half the guests were applauding me. I nodded to them, smiled through tears, and left. Martha and I sat in her car. I stared out the window at the mansion, at the beautiful, perfect wedding that had collapsed into a disaster. You really invested $3 million? Martha's voice was quiet. Yes. And you never told him? No. Why? I turned to her. Because I wanted him to build his life on his own, without guilt, without debt to me. I looked down at my hands, and because I needed to know the truth about Victoria, whether she truly loved him. And now you know. Yes, now I know. Martha started the car. What now? I smiled. For the first time all day, it was real. Now, I live. For myself, not for revenge, not for pain, just live. We drove away, and I didn't look back.